release of the First Voice Community Action Plan. A round of applause. The action plan is called Our Shared Vision, and it's meant to describe a path toward truth and reconciliation here in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. For those who may not already know me, my name is Justin Campbell. I'm the Director of Research and Strategic Partnerships with First Light, and also the coordinator and facilitator of First Voice Coalition. Before we begin, I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge that the land on which we're gathering here today is the unceded ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, whose culture has now been lost forever and can never be recovered. I also want to acknowledge that the island, now commonly referred to as Newfoundland, is the unceded traditional territory of Ukdamhimkuk, which is the ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq of Mi'kmaq First Nation and Mi'kmaq of Qalipu First Nation. First Voice also wants to recognize the First Peoples of Labrador. This includes the Innu of Nitassinan, the Inuit of Nunavut, and the Inuit of Nunatsiavut. The dispossession of Indigenous peoples from these lands has caused a deep and ongoing legacy of harm in our country, our province, and yes, our city as well. It is in direct response to this ongoing legacy of harm that we are releasing our action plan today. The continuing harms caused by colonialism urgently need to be addressed so that we can move forward in dramatic interludes. So the reason why we're presenting the action plan here today is to address the ongoing legacy of harm that's been caused by the dispossession of Indigenous people from their lands, so that all of us, Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, can move forward together in a spirit of reconciliation. With that, I want to invite Stacey House and Natasha. I've forgotten your last name. I'm sorry, Natasha. Blackwood, that's right. Stacey and Natasha to start us off in a good way by sharing a healing song. So over to you.
Oh yeah, that's right. Usually we don't use a mic because we're pretty loud. We chose the healing song because we thought it was appropriate on the path of healing towards reconciliation. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I would like to invite our Inuk elder, Charlotte Winters-Foss, to come up and say a few words to make sure we start this event in a good way. Charlotte is a Indigenous community advocate with First Voice, and she is also a founding member of First Light. And so our organization's been in existence for 40 years. And when we were reviewing some of the documents from the early 80s, Charlotte Winters-Foss was right there advocating for the development of a friendship center. So we have a lot to owe to this amazing woman. So welcome, Charlotte.
Stacy, oh my goodness. Ulasiak ilunasi, Charlotte Winters-Foss Diuvanga, Hope Daily Muvanga. What an honor it is to be here this morning. As Stacy said, I've been involved in the Friendship Center movement here in St. John's from the early 80s while I was going to university and studying to be a teacher and a young mother, seeing a need for the work that has culminated into where we are today. And I'll just kind of add that Stacy was in our youth program, and I remember her from way back when, and look where she is today. I mean, she's a force to contend with. We're so honored and very proud to have Stacy at the helm of, well, of our family. It's been a long road, and those of you who know me know that when I speak, I often get very emotional, and it's very easy for me to cry. So don't mind if I do. It's an exciting time to be. What an exciting time to be Indigenous today, with all the good works that's happening. Just yesterday, and what's going on now in Ottawa. Our Inuit leaders in Nunangat are meeting to form, and they're at the planning stages of developing an Inuit university. So I'm really pleased to hear that, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be around when that comes to fruition. I will just say now that I hope that everybody here has a good morning. I see faces looking at me, and it's kind of, what? Sorry. I'm new to this, and I'm new to this role, and bear with me as I try to make an attempt. What I'll say is that I feel blessed to be living in the time that we are. And on these little shoulders are the good works of all of my grandmothers and my grandparents and all of my ancestors. So when I speak, I know that I'm speaking for them as well. And in all of my hesitations to do things like this, I think I have to force myself to say, yes, I do have a voice, and it's important. I do have, without telling my age, I do have 7 decades of life experiences, so I think that may qualify a little bit for holding a position like eldership. In that vein, I would just like to say now, I'll offer a little prayer. Creator, Guti, Nakumik for this day, Nakumik for all the work that has culminated in where we are today. We've had some very strong leaderships who have helped us to be where we are today and helping us to meet our visions of where we want to be with regards to reconciling and repairing and making a better place for people like me who have come to live in an urban setting. And I just thank Yaguti for all the hard work that individuals in this room and across the province and across our city, for all the work that they've done. I acknowledge that, and I just hope that today this is a beginning step for us, and where we go from here, we have the foundation of what's going to be a great place. And I see many of the shareholders and partners in this room and in the whole process of this, and I thank you for that, and I know that we will continue to keep our heads together in a cool, collective manner to do the things that we need to do, which is to make a better place and make the general people aware of our standing and our pride in making a stance in who we are. Nakumiswak ilunasi.
Nakamik, Charlotte, Willallen. We are here today to release our shared vision, a path towards reconciliation in St. John's. Before I invite our next speakers, I just want to say, if anyone is struggling or would like a quiet space or would like to talk to someone during today's event, we do have a cultural support worker. Michael Johnson is just in the back. He's waving to everyone back here. So if you just want to chat or step outside for a bit, he'll be more than happy to join you. I don't know if we need to go through the housekeeping items, but there are washrooms just out through this door. And anything with the building, you can ask Natasha Blackwood. She's the coordinator of this space, and she will be happy to help you as well. Thank you all for being here today. Our traditional knowledge keepers, our elders, our partners, our officials. It's amazing to see so many people here in such a filled room. This 10-year vision will guide the work of First Voice as we work with the community and government partners to advance truth and reconciliation in our city and in our province. Launched in 2019 by First Light in collaboration with Indigenous Services Canada, First Voice is a coalition of Indigenous peoples, service providers, and all levels of government working together to advance truth and reconciliation in St. John's. When we first created this coalition and called on community members and partner organizations to come to the table, the city, the province, and the country were talking about truth and reconciliation. This plan now calls for action. City staff and elected council alike have demonstrated not only a desire to advance reconciliation, but have taken the first steps to decolonize and indigenize city spaces in the name of reconciliation. In 2020, the city adopted a declaration in support of the rights of Indigenous peoples. Of course, much work remains, but we are eager to continue working with the city to make St. John's an example of what reconciliation could like. And with that, I would like to invite Mayor Breen to bring remarks on behalf of the city.
Well, good morning, everyone. And it's a beautiful winter's morning with the fresh snow on the ground. That's enough for me. That's enough snow. But it's certainly great to be here this morning. It's my pleasure to represent City Council. We have been a proud supporting partner in the development of this very comprehensive action plan. And I would like to acknowledge my colleagues here, Deputy Mayor Sheila O'Leary and Councillor Maggie Burton, and my newest colleague, Ada, who joins us regularly. Probably the best, most well-behaved one of the whole crowd. On behalf of the members of City Council and City staff, I want to congratulate you on the work that has been done to date on achieving today's significant milestone. I also want to state our emphatic commitment to achieving our shared vision of a city where the inherent rights of Indigenous peoples of Newfoundland and Labrador are respectfully recognized and actively supported by all. The city has been an active and eager participant in the planning and development process that has led us on the path to this community action plan. In parallel and alongside the First Voice process, In 2019, the city declared a new vision of St. John's as a progressive city, shaped by its geography and history, where people want to live, and most importantly for me, a place where people feel they belong. We committed to working with our partners and municipal neighbours to advance our strategic directions as we make progress towards our vision of the future. In 2020, we signed the Declaration in support of the rights of Indigenous peoples. I have heard often from Councillors Froud and Councillor Burton and our City Manager, Kevin Breen, about how enriching the work of the partnership table has been. As we have adopted new plans from the envisioned municipal plan to our Healthy City strategy, we have reflected on the issues and themes inherent in this document. St. John's has a strong Indigenous community, the fastest growing urban Indigenous community in Canada. Establishing a stronger relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, as stated in the Community Action Plan, requires mutual understanding and respect. It is our challenge as a municipality to move towards that understanding, valuing the importance of culture and storytelling, focusing on community wellness, and promoting truth and reconciliation. Thank you for the opportunity to be in the circle and an active participant in driving forward the calls for change that are so clearly outlined in the Community Action Plan. We will work with you to acknowledge and embrace the diverse histories and cultures of the Indigenous peoples of our province, to address the issues of affordable housing, expand cultural spaces, address systemic discrimination, and begin the process of decolonizing our policies and our programs. Thank you once again for the invitation to join you this morning, and I look forward to the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Breen. I think the key words there was actively supported by all. And that's exactly what this plan is an action plan. First Light recently created a Department of Research and Strategic Partnerships to reflect and promote the growth of our organizational capacity to influence public policy on the municipal, provincial, and federal level. And what a great group. 3 of them are here. It's a small but mighty department. Many of you know Justin Campbell from his work at First Light in shaping our advocacy efforts. Justin is now going to give an overview of our shared vision. But before he does, I just want to say that because we just developed a new department, of course, who better to be the director of that department. So he had recently had a title change, and I would like to now welcome our new Director of Research and Strategic Partnerships.
Thanks, Stacy, and thank you to Mayor Breen for joining us today, as well as Sheila O'Leary and Maggie Burton. We're very grateful for the city's support throughout the process of developing the Community Action Plan that we're here to present and celebrate today, and we look forward to continuing to work with the city as an active partner in the process of decolonizing the city so that it's a place where all peoples, Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, feel like they belong. So I just want to provide a quick outline of our action plan, our shared vision, path toward truth and reconciliation in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. We're very excited about this plan. It's been a long time in the works, engaging many people, and I'm just going to run through some of the process that led to this document and then highlight a few areas to give you a sense of what our objectives are and the direction that First Voice will be taking. The Community Action Plan that we're releasing today is the result of more than 3 years of hard work that involved extensive coalition and consensus building. It also involved significant amounts of research and sustained engagement with rights holders, stakeholders, policy experts, and decision makers. All of that work has been led by the First Voice Partnership Table, including the City of St. John's, as well as 11 other partner organizations under the leadership of First Light Friendship Center. Our partnership table also includes strong urban Indigenous grassroots participation by 9 volunteer community advocates to make sure that we are actually, the work that we're doing is being led and influenced and directed by the urban Indigenous community here in St. John's. That's very important for First Voice. That's where our name comes from, elevating the voice of First Peoples in the urban Indigenous community here in St. John's. Beyond the members of the partnership table, dozens of other organizations and more than 100 individuals at the local, provincial, and national levels have consistently participated in activities to help and support the development of our action plan that we're releasing here today. On behalf of First Voice, I want to thank all of our partners, community advocates, contributors, supporters, the urban Indigenous community in St. John's, and everyone else who helped get us where we are here today. It's been a long journey, but a very fruitful and productive one. So I just want to provide a bit of an overview here now of the community action plan and the direction that we see for the future, which is why it's called our shared vision. In our engagements with community, there were three major themes that consistently emerged. These included, first, culture and storytelling. Second was health and wellness. Third is truth and reconciliation. All of these themes have been woven right throughout the community action plan, including the objectives that we've identified. The path toward truth and reconciliation doesn't have to involve and shouldn't involve reproducing work that has already been done. Instead, the community expects us to build on and expand efforts by making them applicable to our own local context here in St. John's. That means drawing inspiration from three sources in particular. The first is the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Second is the calls for justice of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. And third is the principles of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We've adopted all three of these documents as foundational to our own work here in St. John's, and because of the decades of work that have already been done in these areas in producing these three documents and the calls to action, the calls for justice, and the principles of UNDRIP. Because of all of the work that has gone into this already, we have termed our own objectives described in the action plan as our own calls for change. The document that we're releasing here today details 42 such calls for change. We've broken them out into 4 distinct action areas that include, first, education, training, and employment. Second is housing and homelessness. Third is infrastructure and service delivery. Fourth is justice and human rights. So quite a range of different objectives and action areas that we want to promote, through which we want to promote truth and reconciliation. The focus of our community action plan is to advance truth and reconciliation at the local level for the urban Indigenous community here in St. John's. Having said that, many of the changes that are described in our vision for the future implicate actors that go well beyond the municipal level. Some of these calls are directed toward the City of St. John's, while others require action on the part of the province and/or the federal government. Some of the calls are addressed to the business community to support our work in very specific ways, while others describe actions that can and should be taken by post-secondary institutions and nonprofit organizations. Some of the calls for change will require identifying new resources and reallocating them in areas that require significant changes in line with what we're proposing and describing in the community action plan, while others can be undertaken immediately without any new resources being dedicated to them. Our calls for change are comprehensive, diverse, and interconnected. While our vision is to see all of them implemented over the next 10 years, there are a few that I would like to highlight here today to give you just a sampling of what's included in the plan. The very first call for change is to promote and support the redevelopment of the K-12 curriculum so that it includes appropriate content on Indigenous histories, cultures, stories, and languages, as well as a discussion of colonialism and its legacy in the province. We are stressing that this kind of process must be undertaken with the collaboration of all Indigenous groups in the province, and that includes urban Indigenous people here in the City of St. John's. Call for change number 9 is to create and support a network of businesses and business stakeholders to promote training and sharing of wise practices in alignment with TRC 92. That's about the corporate sector being engaged in promoting truth and reconciliation. Call for change number 16 is support provincial and national efforts to implement a universal basic income. Call for change 28 is promote and support efforts to repudiate the doctrine of discovery and other colonialist concepts such as terra nullius. Call for Change 31 is about promoting and supporting urban Indigenous participation on critical governance and advisory boards. Urban Indigenous people are very frequently left out of important decision-making processes that directly affect the lives of members of the community that live here in St. John's. So this one is a particularly important objective of ours. Call for Change number 42 seeks a formal apology from the provincial government for the legacy of harm that resulted in the exclusion of Indigenous peoples in the terms of a union with Canada in 1949, a very significant break in relations between settlers and Indigenous peoples in this province. That call for change goes on to say that such an apology must be drafted in full collaboration with all Indigenous groups in the province, including, of course, urban Indigenous people, and it should become a foundation for establishing a renewed relationship between the government of Newfoundland and Labrador and Indigenous peoples in the province. So essentially, we're saying that if we want to reset the relationships between the province and the diverse groups of Indigenous peoples who live here and who have always lived here, an apology and a recognition of the legacy of colonialism and the harm that that has caused and continues to cause is very essential to that. This is also one of the calls for change that doesn't require any resources. It could be undertaken immediately, and that's what we're suggesting. So it should be clear from this small sampling of calls for change that advancing truth and reconciliation is not the responsibility of any single person, organization, or level of government. It is a responsibility that must be shared by all of us, everyone in this room, everyone outside of the room, people in government, people outside of government, people in the corporate sector. Everyone has a role to play in these calls for change, which is why we've directed the calls for change to all residents of the city of St. John's, with supporting roles to be played by people right across the province. We must all work together, which is why today we're calling on all residents of St. John's and indeed all residents of the province to support these efforts. And there are many different ways that that can be done. First and above all, we call on everyone to read our action plan. Think about what urban Indigenous people are asking of you. It's set out very clearly in this document. Consider where you can contribute to the calls for change that we have identified. And then reach out to First Voice and get involved. It's time to get to work. Thank you. So that's it for today's announcement. I know that there are media here, so if any of the officials who spoke, Stacy and Mayor Breen, and any of the councillors wanted to participate in a media scrum, we can organize this up here. I'll also be available for questions if there are specific questions or topics that media want to address in terms of the calls for change. I'm happy to speak to that. So thank you everyone for coming. Enjoy. Oh, one more thing.
Just to close this beautiful morning in a good way, we would like to invite our Mi'kmaq traditional knowledge keeper, Margaret Cranford, to come up. Margaret is an advocate, very passionate about, Indigenous rights, and she's a major supporter of this project and just has the most beautiful way with words. So please.
Well, and Stacey. Welaliok, Weliexi Boog, good morning, that's in our language. Deluisi Makali, Deluisin, Iwipkik. My name is Margaret. I'm originally from Flat Bay. I would like to acknowledge my great-great-grandmother, Agnes Benoit, my great-grandmother, Martha Brake, my grandmother, Elizabeth Halbo-Legg, and my mother, Yvonne Legg-Jodry. That's who I'm from. That's my roots, and it's important. I'd like to say a little prayer. Actually, it's a huge prayer, and I'd like to say Wilaliok for all of you. Thank you all. That also means we do good for each other. It's an exchange of beautiful energy. I have a saying that I was taught growing up, we're all simply walking each other home. And that is the truth. We're all energy packaged in different forms. We're the two-legged form, the most destructive. But when we work together and lift each other up, there's a huge difference between rights and responsibilities. And we all have the responsibility to change one heart at a time within each other. That's how I feel. So, Gisok, Creator. Willalan, Creator, for this day, for having the blessing of opening my eyes so that I can see what I need to see in the world to walk forward in a good way and to show others by example. Gisuk, I asked for prayers for all of us, for the vulnerable, for the people who don't have a place to sleep at night, for people who don't have basic needs like food, a warm smile, a hug. I ask for equity and equality for all. I ask everybody to please open your hearts, open your eyes, listen. Listen, take care of each other. I ask for us to be able to continue this walk, and it is a difficult walk, to respect each other's perspectives from where we come from. Each one of us have a beautiful story to tell, and each story is worthy of hearing. And to be patient with each other as we take this long journey together. Gisok, Willalan, and Willaliok to all of you for this opportunity. And Willaliok, thank you all for the movement we've made together. Often we look back at the difficulties, but to acknowledge how far we've come. And our Indigenous peoples are not only resilient, we often hear that word, we're relentlessly resilient. We're still here. We're willing to work together. Gesalug means I love you all. Wellamuksin means you look fabulous, all of you. And Willalioch, aho.
Thanks so much, Margaret. Okay, so that really does finish things off, and we appreciate your words of wisdom. There is coffee and refreshments here for everyone, so please help yourself. There are also hard copies of the action plan, our shared vision, right over here, so please do take one with you when you go. And once again, media, if you wanted to come up here, we can answer any questions you may have. So thanks, everyone, for coming. I'm wrong. There is one more thing that Margaret would like to say.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
There's a special, I'd love for all of you to put your hearts together today and put a special prayer up for Stacy's nephew, Lincoln, who's in the hospital right now, sick. And so if you would raise your energy and your love and put your healing energies towards Lincoln, Walaliok Nakamik.